guys, it's Nikki here. I'm here today to do kind of a new video type that I'm wanting to try, and it is doing 1-minute reviews. So I will grab a handful of my recent reads. Today I'm doing 5 of them, and I'm going to try to do 1-minute reviews for each of them. If I don't have the physical book, which I think I only have a physical book for one of these reads, I'll pop up a cover just in the corner here. And with that, I will get started. So I'm going to start with the one I do have a physical copy for. It is The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. This book is about finding yourself in Ponzi schemes and this small town, and it all revolves around this glass hotel that's isolated near the small town on, I believe it's Coastal BC or Island BC, I'm not sure. It's Canadian. It's weird. Parts are interesting and parts are not interesting. It really picked up in the back half. I gave this a 3 out of 5. The next book I'm going to do a quick review here for you is A Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. This was really interesting. It had an adorable will they won't they. It had a really interesting concept. The science and the physics were done in such a way, like cow tools were done with Larson, that comic strip writer, and you never questioned how it worked. You just knew that it did. And I love multiple timelines, I love multiple universes, and you get exposed to both of those and a little mystery to boot, which was super entertaining. Also, this has LGBTQ+ and people of color representation in it, and I think, at least personally, I thought they were really well done. Although anybody who falls into those categories more than myself, which would be anybody really, let me know if you guys thought it was problematic or if it was good representation. I would really appreciate it. I'm trying to do them all in one breath for some reason. That's a bad idea. Book 3 is The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek. This one was kind of weird and interesting. I've heard of the people who had a genetic mutation that caused their skin to be blue. It basically resulted in their blood not really being able to carry iron, and as such they weren't able to oxygenate themselves quite as well, so blue skin. And it touches a little bit on racism because it's like a colored person, just not your typical person of color. And it also the more interesting part of the story, at least to me, was this Bookwoman program that was taking place in rural, poor areas in the States at the time. I think this is in like the 1920s. It was really interesting, and I really loved the storyline that was following the woman and the bookwoman who you follow, Cassie, and her impact on her community. I've heard that one is a bit controversial, and I totally get why. 3 out of 5 stars. Book 4, The Girl Who Drank the Moon. This one was beautiful. It was middle grade. The main character is like 12. But it was it had such a genuine folklore vibe to it that I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the characters. I fell in love with the points of view. I loved the different perspectives showing different evil being from different roots. And the setting was just really interesting. Like, you have this rural village and magic and these other villages, and then these larger cities that also relate to the magical world and where magic comes from and how it works in this world. And the main character is just so sweet and endearing and strong, and you fall in love with her and her family. It really is folklore with a found family, and it was just absolutely adorable. I highly recommend. Pretty sure I gave this a 4 out of 5. My 5th and final book here is a nonfiction. This is A Curious History of Sex. I also posted a review for this one on my Goodreads. You guys can see the little review there. It was pretty quick, as this one is going to be. So I listened to the audiobook for this one as well. It was narrated by the author. While it isn't necessarily a full history of sex, she breaks it down into some of the things that are considered, I guess, still a little bit more taboo or stigmatized today, like specific words or just general cultural ideas, such as a female body being unclean, smelly. She kind of digs into the history of those a little bit, provides you with a little bit of brief history and kind of gives you the framework for why it's still there today. It's not really dense, and it's not a full history, but it's still really interesting, and if you're interested in getting a brief summary of parts of sex and how it relates to some of the cultures of the past and where we are now, I highly recommend it. It is a bit more of a feminist take. They specifically talk about the sexual history of women and the history of the oppression related to female sexuality quite a bit. Just keep that in mind if you're picking it up. I personally loved that aspect. It really opened my eyes to a lot of things, and that's all I got to say. I think this was the longest one. This is probably the only one over a minute. And with that, I will leave you guys here. I'll just see you guys in the next video. Peace.